a lot of interesting conversations about to happen. And so to kick us off, I'd like to welcome Professor Ngugi from the university to welcome all of us and yes, kick off the show for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wachira. Karibuni sana, everybody. It's really a pleasure. Welcome you all to kick off our series of live conversations for 2026 in this very, very engaging conversation. So I think as we've become accustomed to, we know that this is a space for a very thoughtful and informed discourse on issues that shape our everyday lives as well as our societies. And as a university, there are some things that we actually do very well. Yeah, we are very good at generating knowledge, very high level, scientific level through research. We're also very good at producing experts in various dimensions of society, that is through training. But very often, one of the things that universities fail to do is to cross that bridge from the so-called ivory tower to engage in meaningful, practical ways with societies that we serve. Yeah. So this lecture series, very premier engagement forum for Aga Khan University, live conversation, is our bridge from that ivory tower to engage with society. Today's evening discussion, from tradition to choice, conversations on how millennials and Gen Zs are shaping relationships and marriage, is very interesting. And I know it's going to be very enriching and very engaging for all of us, because it's a topic that touches a lot of aspects of our social lives, from our cultures, family expectations, personal values, and the way in which our younger generations are navigating this world, the very rapidly evolving world. So these conversations will allow us to explore these shifts from a space of openness and curiosity, as well as allow us to learn from very, very diverse perspectives. So we're very fortunate to help us understand that this topic, to have a very diverse panel that's been very, very well and very thoughtfully put together by our planning committee. So we have Dr. Joan Okemo and Dr. Catherine Kathu, who are my colleagues here at the Aga Khan University. And then we have Nate Kamau, who is one of our students. Very interested to hear from him the perspectives of the Gen Zs on this topic. Then we have Dr. Esther Dindi from Thriving Couples. Karibu sana. We have Nosim Natasha. I think she's with us. Yeah. She's a creative entrepreneur and content creator. And we have Kennedy Karanja, who is an elder at CITAM. I don't think he looks like an elder, really, but traditional sense of the word. Yeah, then we have Queen Gadoni, who is a change catalyst and storyteller. And then we have our moderator, Manjala. Yeah. That's great, yeah. So we are very grateful to all of you for joining us this evening. And we look forward to very engaging and very enriching conversations. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much, Professor Ngugi, and I also want to appreciate Dr. Shira for the introduction, toward this conversation. And like he said, rightfully, we want to have an open conversation, very real. So we're not masking things in theory, but as you're sitting here as the audience, we want to have a conversation in your realities as young people, millennials, and even, of course, the other generation. Everyone is included to be part of this. And I want to say thank you so much for watching. We are live on NTV right now from 5:30, from the time we began to 7 p.m. So this is a very open conversation. I will let my panelists just introduce themselves a bit more personally, so you get to know why they're here and, why in their professions they're interested to have this conversation. So I'll begin with you, Dr. Betty. Welcome to this conversation.
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. I am pleased to be here. I am Dr. Esther Dindi, a consultant physician in internal medicine, currently based at Avenue Parklands. Now that the conversation is around marriage, I have been married for the last 20 years. My husband is a heart surgeon. Dr. Keith Dindi is in the audience. And I'm very passionate about marriage. Together with my husband, we run a movement called Thriving Couples. And I advocate for authentic femininity. Besides that, I am a mother of 3 kids. So I have 2 Gen Zs in the house who are very vocal as well, and 1 Gen Alpha. So it's a full house. And most importantly, I'm pleased to be here and would be happy to engage in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Esther. Nate, please tell us more about yourself and why you're interested in this conversation.
Hey, good evening to everyone. Thank you again for having me. Like I said, my name is Nate Kamau Gituku. I am a student here at Aga Khan University studying medicine. And I think personally, myself, I'm not married, but I'm particularly here to represent a particular demographic of Generation Z, a bold population, a population that takes risks, are very confident in what they believe. And I think it's very clear to show what our stance is, and especially when it comes to an institution like marriage that is constantly evolving and constantly changing, I think it's always good to assert what we think about it and what our opinion is, and to make it as clear as possible.
All right, thank you so much, Nate. Mr. Kennedy?
Thank you very much. My name is Kennedy Karanja, and I am a supply chain professional. But besides that, I am, my wife is in Sitam Ruiro, where we are in charge of Faith Ministry, which is basically the family ministry. We are very passionate on matters family. We advocate that marriages work, especially in the 21st century. We have been blessed together to have been married for the last 15 years. We've been also been blessed with 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 young man, and we thank God. And we want to believe that even tonight we shall discuss more on how marriages work in this century.
All right, thank you so much for that. Beryl, tell us more about yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Beryl Njoki. I am a licensed psychologist and founder of an organization known as New Beginnings Good Ground. I work with children and adolescents, and yeah, I am here representing Gen Zs. Super excited because I think we also deserve to give our voice and stance in, relationships and marriages, and I am not married.
All right, got you. Right, we also do have our panelists who are part of the audience, okay? And I want to also give them a chance, like as Professor Ngugi mentioned, that, they have their perspective. So we'll begin with you, Dr. Joan.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Joan Okemo. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist. I work here in Aga Khan. I'm in the field of marriage and family, really bringing forth children. In the field of obstetrics. So I'm here mostly to shed light when it comes to marriage and childbirth in the essence of how fertility impacts that, and how we can educate the masses around that as they make their decisions around life and family and children. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Right, Dr. Catherine.
All right, good evening, everyone. Dr. Catherine Gathu. I'm a family physician by profession, and I'm also married, and I've been married for the last 15 years, and together we are blessed with 4 children. So I'm very pro-marriage in this conversation, but aside from that, I'm also involved in educating the Gen Zs. As a medical educator here, so I'm happy to contribute to that conversation tonight.
All right, thank you so much for that. And this gentleman right here, as he was introduced by his wife, he is Dr. Keith, and we'll also get his perspective. Go ahead, Dr. Keith.
Thank you. I'm Keith Dindi, the husband to the amazing lady right there, amazing smile. And really, professionally, I'm a heart surgeon. So I'm usually touching people's hearts in reality and also figuratively. So it's all about the heart. And so I'm really excited about today's opportunity to have conversations on matters love, matters relationships, matters marriage. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now that we've gotten to know our panel, what they do, we're all well placed, right? The funny thing is, this should not be a conversation that we should be surprised to have, because it's all over social media, it's all over your conversations, mkiko na rafiki zenu, so it's not new at all. But there seems to be an issue as to how society views what we're calling from tradition to choice, right? So Gen Zs and millennials are reshaping the whole ideology of marriage and relationships and the like. And there's a big back and forth on social media. So I know the young people here, by the way, you guys, feel free to raise your hands and be part of the conversation. You're also very, very alive to this, right? So it's not just them, you're also part of it. So feel free. So let's get into the heart of it. Why do you believe that we still have this conversation of, a Gen Z's right, a millennial doing the right thing? Why don't you want to get married? Why do you want to get married? Marriage is fake or marriage is not, right? So what's your perspective on that, Dr. Esther?
Well, thank you for the question. I think the Gen Zs have their own perspective, and maybe we'll be hearing from them as we go on. But I would start by saying that I'm pro-marriage. And
you're a millennial?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. And I am pro-marriage because since time immemorial, through the religions, cultures, different societies, marriage has been the core of the community. It gives structure. Within marriage is where it's best placed to actually raise children. And people in marriage have this companionship. They're able to do life together because marriage requires commitment. And in commitment, two people come together. Of course, it has its economic value because you pull your resources together. You're able to give children, if you have children, that sense of belonging and that sense of belonging. And it's been shown that really kids who are brought up in a family where there's both parents, they actually have better outcomes in terms of education, in terms of development. And so just beside the companionship, in the earlier stages where you're together, you're raising children, you kind of share responsibilities. And even in the long term, as you grow older, you have someone who checks on you, you have someone who will take care of you. As people get older, they need someone to take care of them, and I would say that it is still relevant. To the Gen Z's point, feeling that marriage no longer makes sense, maybe there are various factors. I would say people are delaying to get married because they're thinking of the economic repercussions. Part of it that is contributed by our cultures, the so-called ratios, bride price, the cost of weddings and all that. But I would argue that it's actually affordable to do marriage. In the sense that you can go to the magistrate. There are various ways in which people can still get legally married. But I'll land it by saying that marriage is still sensible. Even now, it is not obsolete. It's the best institution in which we can raise families and actually have legacy long-term. The other thing is that when there's no marriage, there's no structure. Okay. And so there's a kind of anarchy in that institution. Yeah.
All right. So Nate, do you believe in marriage or not? And if you'd be getting married, let's say, why would you do it? What's your perspective?
Okay. Yes, I do believe in marriage. I am pro-marriage, but I'd add a cap to that and say that it has to meet certain conditions. I believe in pro-marriage being safe, being equitable, and being voluntary. And until those conditions are met, I can't say I'm just simply pro-marriage.
How are those conditions, should they be met?
Okay, safety means within this person, I'm not feeling any form of danger, emotionally or physically in any sense. That when I'm talking to this individual, when I'm talking to my partner, when I'm sharing space with my partner, I feel comfortable, I feel seen, I feel heard. So that's my one cup. My second cup is voluntary. I need to feel like it is my choice to get married, my choice not to get married. It's free of coercion and it's voluntary. And the third cup is safe, voluntary, and let's focus mostly on those two, safe and voluntary. So until those conditions are met is when I can be pro-marriage. I don't take it as necessarily it is a must. I take it as optional and safe. And when it comes to what you said about having two parents and it's better for the kids, it's proven that it's good for them, I'd actually say from the research I've done that it is not a direct study that says having two parents means you have a good kid. And having one parent means you have a bad kid. It's not that much of a clear line. The study doesn't just say single parent households tend to produce children who are not necessarily as good as a two-parent household. There are other factors that come into parenting which still have to be acknowledged. It can't come to simply how many parents are there in that situation. There are economic factors, there are social factors that would contribute to how this child turns out. So it's not a clear line. And the third thing I'd say is that the reason we always keep on coming back to having this conversation is people are so uncomfortable with institutions changing. We are physically uncomfortable with change. Even through your whole body, there's a certain uneasiness that comes when something that was truly rooted in tradition all of a sudden changes through a certain generation. And we have to realize that when change is justified, it's okay. So when we come back to this conversation and we're hearing Gen Zs, it's not that we're saying marriage is not making any sense. It's that we're saying it's not making any sense when it's not meeting certain prerequisites, like I've mentioned, when it's not meeting certain conditions. And you just have to be okay with that change because that change is justified in itself.
Okay, got you, Nate. Thank you so much. So it has to meet certain conditions for it to make sense to you. All right. Mr. Kennedy, you have a vast experience in the church, right? So I'm assuming that you mentor and you're around, both the old and the young. And young people especially have such deep-seated issues, especially with the reality. They say that the church does not embrace the reality on the ground of how young people view relationships and what's happening. So it's they sometimes accuse you and say the church, rather not you, that it's more of imposing the church culture on the younger people or younger generation. What's your perspective on that? And also you can tell us your experiences on the same.
Thank you very much. And I think I would say it is very true. There are concerns that especially the younger generation are raising. And I think it is time that we have a conversation and listen to some of the concerns that these young people are having. Because when I look at when we were growing up, I think the expectations in the marriage space is very different or was very different from the expectations today. When I was growing up, for instance, it was almost automatic that after you finished your tertiary education, that the next thing people expected you to do is to actually get married. I mean, I would remember in your graduation party, the people coming there would always remind you that we are waiting for the next degree, and the next degree, they actually meant a spouse. But that conversation has changed because the Gen Zs, as it were today, are more concerned about other factors like stability in life, which probably was not a big factor in our days. And I think what we need to do is to come to some middle ground in terms of also understanding the Gen Zs so that we support them in that space. But what I can say is that actually marriages work. And I can say that because I've been in marriage for the last 15 years, but it calls for intentional commitment, because what has happened is that I think people have moved from the traditional space where marriage was looked as a covenant and it's now a contract, and people are looking at what are your obligations, what are my obligations, am I benefiting? And when they look and they feel like I'm at such a point that I don't seem to be getting enough compared to what I'm giving, people want to walk out. But then what they forget is that marriage is supposed to be actually a covenant. And I think there are a couple of systems that need to be in place for a marriage to work, which have actually broken down in the recent days. I remember in the former years, for instance, community was very key in supporting marriages. There were ways and channels, including support systems that would support marriages. And the divorce cases in those days were relatively few. But in the recent days, those divorce cases have really increased. And I think that is part of the reason why Gen Zs are saying marriages do not work today, because they have seen many broken marriages. And they are even feeling that we even think they are these people who've grown up in probably in single families, and we think they've ended up becoming better. And we are not saying that people that probably have been brought up in a single family, that they are not better. We're just saying that a marriage setup presents a great environment because there's actually partnership. It's not one party working towards bringing up the children. And when you remember from a biblical perspective, marriage is actually God's idea. In the book of Genesis, the word of God says that, and God saw that it is not good for man to be alone. And he created for him a spouse, a wife. And you remember, even he says that a man shall leave his father and mother and be enjoined with his spouse. So it is God's original design for marriages to take place. And that's why we cannot just throw that at the window.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Right. So, Beryl, you work with a lot of young people. You're a therapist, an accomplished young woman. And one of the things you're telling me earlier is you have young people, 15 or lower or going above, who have deep-seated issues on their perspectives of their parents, marriages, society, and the like. So give us your perspective on the same from your background.
Okay, yeah. So I work with children and adolescents, and most of the cases that I deal with are behavioral issues, emotional regulation issues in kids that come from dysfunctional families. Now, do they have both parents? In fact, both parents will come, the child will come with both parents to the therapy room. The mom is seated there, the dad is seated there. They're not even conversing. They're just waiting for the session to be over, whoever is paying to pay, and then they leave. Are they still a union? Yes, they're still very married. In fact, they are more married than you can even think of. But are they together really? You get. So to maybe add on his point, when you talk about a partnership is a partnership, on paper. I think a marriage is the only certificate you get without education or without having to do an exam or without having to do even background checks, But like in real life, would we want to say it's as smooth as we want to put it? Or we also want to like acknowledge that there are factors
Do you feel, sorry to interrupt you, Beryl, do you feel that there's a lot alluding that it's an easy thing as opposed to the actual reality of what it is?
Yes, perfectly, yes. Because then as adults, when you're not able to fully sort out your issues or maybe smoothen out the issues you're having, then you're raising kids who are not able to be emotionally stable. So instead of them learning how to deal with their emotions, it turns out to become behavioral issues because they see the mom not talking to the dad, passive aggressive behavior, and they take it out on school to their teachers, to their fellow students. So there's a lot going on in families that's masked behind, the perfect holding of hands when they're going to church, or, there's a wedding here, let's go attend and look like the perfect family. But let's be honest, I see more than meets the eye, and I can say that marriages are not as beautiful as everyone alludes them to be.
All right, thank you so much for that. So I also want to engage my panel that is part of the audience. And Dr. Joe, let me start with you. Right. So you work in the gynecology space, and there's a lot happening in reproductive health when it comes to women and, how they perceive relationships. We have a lot of women who don't see the need of, being in a marriage. They're okay to be in a relationship. So generally, as everyone has mentioned, society is different and it's very diverse. So I want to know your perspective from that end.
Thank you for that. I would like to say actually, the way we view marriage is not really a Gen Z, it's a millennials perspective. I think it has shifted a lot, not just in the Gen Z group, but also in the millennials group. We have a lot of women who are choosing to stay single, who are choosing to stay without kids. Yes, like later into their late 30s, early 40s. And those are not Gen Zs, those are millennials. So we have a lot of these changes that are happening. Traditionally, we've had a link between being married, sexual relations, getting children. They were all linked together. You have to be married for you to have sex, for you to get children. But these days, we have a lot of decoupling from that, where all these things can go on independently. People can marry, no children. People can have children when they're really single. Someone might decide, I want a baby, I don't want a spouse. There is a lot of artificial fertilization these days, and you can get a baby without even having a partner. And that's happening a lot. We have people who decide to marry, but then they don't live together. You live in your space, live in my space, we get a kid, we co-parent. all these things are happening. As Nate said, there's a lot of change in the institution of marriage, and you really wonder what is right and what is not right. I agree with him in some sense that as long as it's safe for you, that's what really matters. I feel like traditionally, being a millennial myself, we've been brought to really just tick a box, get married at some age, finish school, get married, get kids. And people will ask you after you finish college, so are you married? When are you getting married? You marry, where's the baby? Where's the second? Where's the third? You know, it's like a checkbox that you have to tick and tick and tick and tick and tick. And that's changing. And sometimes people have been caught up in that trap where you marry just because the society wanted you to marry, and then you found yourself in some unsafe situation. People are dying. People are being killed in such institutions because you have to die in there until death do us part. And this is what we have been told. And, you know, it's inculcated in our minds as millennials, and also I'm sure some Gen Zs as well. So there's a lot of change that is happening. I'll just say something that I was told growing up by I think my dad or my elder brother. Choosing a spouse is one of the greatest decisions you'll ever make in life. You get it wrong, you're doomed. The people who will marry and they will undo everything that you have ever accomplished. And they're those ones who you marry and they really make you the best version of yourself. So it really goes down to how do you pick your spouse and how do you navigate life after that.
All right, thank you so much for that. Dr. Catherine, your perspective.
All right, perhaps just to continue with the conversation, but maybe also pose something that the audience can reflect on even as we go on. Do you realize we've been in a conversation on marriage for perhaps the last 30 minutes or so, but there's nowhere love has been mentioned, or at least I've not heard it. Do you realize?
People who are in love in the room, please. You're allowed to echo, you know, because it's a very, you know, big ingredient.
Yeah.
I know right now everyone is sitting pretty, but soon, please, the floor is open.
But perhaps are we thinking of how this narrative has changed? Because previously you're in love, get married, but perhaps the generation is showing us that really has changed from that. And maybe even what I've heard from the panelists who have already spoken, there's no really one person or generation that is saying we're against marriage or we are pro-marriage. What they're saying is certain things need to be in place for marriage to work. And I want to agree on that. And one of the things that I think becomes a challenge when it comes to relationships and marriage is this idealistic view about marriage. Find people are looking for Mr. Perfect. Why haven't certain people settled? Because you're waiting for that perfect timing, you know, perfect man. And we know that that doesn't exist. So I think the first thing that we need to shed off our minds as millennials, as Gen Zs, is that narrative about perfection, you know, so that we can start seeing people for who they really are, and they can start seeing us for who we really are. And perhaps that is what will really uphold the values around marriage that I think this conversation is geared towards. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. And I love your perspective, Dr. Keith, because I mean, your lovely wife is right here on stage. So I'm curious, do people come up to you and tell you like, Kweni real, like, Nini, who are in our hold together? Like, what is this thing that 20 years, you know, gets you still, you know, in the game and in love? Are you in love? Are you both in love? I love
Absolutely. Yeah, I like what she said. For us, so I'm a Luya man, she's a Kamba lady. So a lot of sex. I think it's important to say that. Yeah. A lot of sex is important for a good relationship. So for us, we've really prioritized our physical union, because we know it many times, if you have a sexless marriage, many times it is a precursor to an emotionally detached marriage. The other thing that we have done consistently over time is to work intentionally on our emotional connectedness. People always assume that if you started very well, there's this word people like to say, we were compatible. No one is compatible. From our own experience, We've been helping couples for a long time. We've been married 20 years. I can tell you for sure there are no compatible people. Everybody marries the wrong person. Nobody marries the right person. You'll realize that very soon after marriage, that is not the right person. So we are very different. She's quite introverted. I'm very extroverted. She likes...
Cut the right person. How do you make that person the right person?
So that is a choice. So I believe there's something that we call a frame. A frame decides your focus. And so if you frame this person as your person that you're being committed to, you start to see them differently. If you put a frame and say, maybe there is something out there that will be better, that's the way you'll always see it. So for us, we've decided this is it. And I think that point that she mentioned about commitment is so crucial, because then that is the bedrock onto which you build everything else. If there is no commitment, it's like having the wrong foundation. Doesn't matter how beautiful a building is. I will end by saying this. We live in what we call a foliage generation. If you look at a beautiful tree, the nice leaves, they're very green, they're fruits. Many people think about that, the foliage. But beneath the surface, we usually say, if you want to grow a tall tree, you must dig deep roots. So that process of digging deep roots together, that's what makes for a beautiful, strong marriage. And so as guys, behind the scene, in stuff that is not glamorous, stuff that is not fun, it's not Instagram worthy, behind the scenes, we really spend time digging deep roots. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable conversations. I go out on a date with this lady once every week without fail. Every Sunday afternoon, we go on a date. And it's not interesting conversations, it's difficult conversation. One of the questions we ask each other is, what have I done this week that you are not happy with? How could I have loved you better? Is there something I need to do differently? And we are real with each other, because we know if you want to build something amazing, a great foliage, then you have to be willing to go really, really deep. So in short, I would say, yes, it's possible. It takes a lot of intentionality. There is no great marriage by chance. Every great marriage you see is a great marriage by choice. And for us, both of us have made that commitment, and we're enjoying the fruits of that.
Right. And that has ruffled some feathers in here. I'm hearing some murmuring. Tunakuja kwenu na msiogope tafadhali, just pause your questions when you're ready. And I want to go to Nate, because before we get to the marriage, we have to have relationships, right? And I'm sure that there are things that we misunderstand or we understand from the whole Gen Z dynamic, right? There's a time I was hosting a panel, another one, and someone was like, kama mtu hauna do, usinikujie. And it was super, super real. Like they were not even trying to cap it. And everyone was like, clock it. You know what I mean? So Nate, I want to know your perspective on relationships in general.
I'd say I'd tackle the financials part of relationships before marriage and how it determines whether Gen Z or any person from, I guess, my side of the generation would determine it to get into marriage. So there are certain things that I could always tell certain other generations were uncomfortable with when it came to Gen Z relationships, whether it was cohabitation before marriage, or it was waiting for a certain age period, or even in this case, having a certain standard of financial responsibility or financial literacy or financial requirement of this partner. And I'd argue that that isn't in itself a bad thing. That I'd rather have this, and I want us to look at it comparatively. I'd rather have you take into context the financial capability of you both as individuals than it become an issue later down the line that may be something that is irreversible. I'd hate the way maybe they framed it, is maybe where we can get concerned, is that if you don't have this money, don't come to me. Is that if you don't have this money, I can't be comfortable taking this step of marriage. It shouldn't be, I cut you off immediately, but it's a simple action of, you can't ask of my hand to get to that point when I know we are both financially not there. It should be a prerequisite that is taken into context. Considering the socioeconomic climate we live now, it is virtually very, very, very difficult to sustain a marriage when both of you are financially not as well as you could be. It will make things really difficult.
If you're in love.
Even though you're in love, like these are environmental situations that happen in spite of the emotions you hold to each other. It will happen.
So what makes you sober-minded? Before you continue, I'll come back to you. Daryl, what makes you sober-minded to say, fine, I feel a lot for this person, but I want to be objective and think about general things like who are you? What's your background? Maybe you're stalking someone on IG. I don't know if some of you people do that. Just general stuff, right? So give us your perspective in a very real and core way.
My perspective kind of is unconventional. I don't know. Let's begin with me as a Gen Z. I believe marriage favors and benefits men. Okay, we can have that as a foundation. Like, let's be
I'm
real.
coming to the lady in green.
Like, even the Bible says when a man finds a woman, they find a good thing, a beautiful thing. Why doesn't the Bible say when a woman finds a man, they find a beautiful thing? It's not there. Please be very cautious. So, me as a woman, why would I want to enter a union where the guy is not financially stable? We say a man is to money as a woman is to beauty. Or maybe the books I have read. Because which man goes and marries an ugly woman? Look at her. Please, can you do this? Can you do this to your hair? She's so pretty. So he went for the beauty, right? So why is it wrong when a woman says, I want a man with money. I want a man with a fast car, not just a car. Like I think it's society just making it look like, you know what, it's okay. You women can settle. But men can go get the beautiful women, I don't know. But anyway, now let's get back to the objectives. I don't think I sit down and be like, I want to get married. Like even in my goals, my to-do list this year, I want to get my master's degree. I want to get my doctorate degree. Like I have a million things I want to do. I want to grow my organization. Honestly, if I am to sit down, I want a man who's probably at my level or even better. Maybe a CEO, a founder, a But again, if I say that, they'll say, I don't want to get married. I am a bitter woman. I am blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so.
Okay, so before I come to the rest of my panelists, right? All of you are getting that? Okay. This amazing young lady in a green jumper, hoodie. Yes, you, my dear. Yes, you. I saw you clocking it. I saw you clocking it. So, and you really loved the perspective that she mentioned. So tell us more about it. Yeah, just a minute. We're getting a mic right.
I don't have much to say, except that I agree with her, especially in terms of religion with this topic. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to submit to a man. Yeah.
Elaborate, please. Elaborate what that means. We're very curious.
In the Bible, it says that wife should submit to their husband. I'm not a
Tarudi hapo ufafanue. Lazima tupate hiyo ufafanuzi. Right. So I want to take it to another member of the audience. Right. Okay, there we go. Please stand up, sir. Thank you.
So to start, I think marriage is a beautiful concept. The idea of devoting your life and to another person is so beautiful, only if you want it. Okay, someone said in the panel that there were low divorce rates, and I want to say that low divorce rates doesn't necessarily a happy marriage. A lot of people could not divorce because of whatever other people are going to say. People will be ostracized. People who are financially trapped in a marriage. If you leave a marriage where you are financially dependent on someone, what are you going to do? Are you going to starve to death? No, you're not going to do that. So you see yourself trapped you see yourself basically in a prison that you can't leave. If you leave, these people are gonna say, "Oh, this one left, this one, and this one." You're gonna be looked badly. So that's why a long time ago there were no divorce rates of that. And then again, the whole biblical concept of marriage, there's not necessarily one definition of marriage, because if you look at so many patriarchs in the Bible, they had many wives, they had concubines. Solomon had 1,000 of them even. So if you say man is going to leave his home to join his wife, which one? Because it's not. Solomon had 1,000 wives. Abraham had Sarah, also had Hagar. Jacob had to work 14 years to get the woman he wanted. He was given one in the first place, and still had children with her. More than six, if might I add. So the whole concept of man leaving his home to join his wife, it basically just explains why marriage might exist. It doesn't necessarily enforce a rule like in society and other people. So yeah, like I said before, it is a beautiful concept only if you want it, as has been demonstrated.
Okay, then. Right. So that's a member of the audience. Is there anyone else who'd want to contribute before I go back to the panel so that they can be able to articulate this aspect? Anyone else? This gentleman right here. Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, our speakers, and thank you very much, moderator. I've been listening very carefully about this conversation, and much is taken on the side of Gen Zs. Gen Zs only. What about the other generation plus? I think it is affecting the entire generation. But the Gen Zs are the most affected. When I hear one of them saying that submitting is a problem, submitting to a man is a big issue. And I ask myself also again, how come if they fear marriage and we hear them marrying, one gender marrying one another, and they live, and we don't hear them talking about that? Is that biblical, or where do you get this thing from? So to me, I see that what is coming about the Gen Zs is it is a colonized mind, whereby now we are importing foreign ideologies. We bring it in.
Okay, come down. Okay, we'll all have a moment to answer, I promise. There's a gentleman right behind you in green.
So,
we'll have a time, but let him finish.
I like such a conversation whereby everybody wants to participate. I'll give you the floor and I'll respond later. So that mind is what makes our children fear the marriage, one thing. That's number one. Also, we as their parents, we have not nurtured them, sharing with them the beauty of marriage, the beauty of having a family. And then we give them background of our grandparents, whom even when they never went to job anywhere, they never worked, but they lived loving each other for a long time. Even at older age, you see them going to church, holding one another at 80s. And they didn't have any job anywhere, but they shared the little they had. So there was no fear of marriage. But here we fear the marriage because of the foreign ideologies, whereby now we feel you can do without marriage and life goes on. But you don't remember that you will pass the Gen Z to another age, whereby you need somebody to hold your hand as you carry on to the future, to another world. So that is the time now you'll feel that I wish I knew. So to me, I think the mistake is on us, the parents. I don't blame the Gen Zs, but I blame the parents because we don't show them what is the value of getting married. Even if you are jobless or you are a shamba boy or you are working in the village, what is the beauty of this having a family?
All right.
So to me, I say we should nurture them by guiding them to see what can we get out of marriage, but not to say that living a solo life is better than having a family.
Right.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Right. So I want to go back to my panel so that I can be able to respond to that or articulate this matter. So I'll go, before I come to you, Nate, let me give Mr. Kennedy, a chance, and I'll come to you, Esther and Mr. Keith. Yes.
Very interesting conversation in the room. And I must say that I think one of the concerns I have is the current culture and society we are living in that is having a lot of individualism. It's a consumer culture. And I think we are very materialistic, focusing. I hear, does he have enough money? Does she have enough money? And my view, for instance, is I think I look at life from a balanced view. Because if, for instance, you found a man with a lot of money as a lady, and they do not have good health, or for instance, maybe there are other challenges involved in that union, then are you going to be able to enjoy? And so I think we need to look at life from a balanced view. Are we able to be happy? And I think Dr. Dindi said something, that there's a lot of commitment. And I think one of the challenges is because people do not want to participate in making marriage work. But if there's going to be commitment, I think then you will enjoy the fruits. And I think probably why people are not desirous is because there are no fruits to be seen out of the marriages. But if you put in a lot of hard work, by being committed to each other, by improving each other. Actually, a marriage union is supposed to be a space where you come together and improve each other, make each other better. It should be a place where you actually challenge each other. I can tell you, in a healthy marriage relationship, there are certain virtues that get worked on and improved in you. I mean, your patience gets improved. Your humility gets cultivated. I mean, your kindness gets improved because you are basically working together. But then listening to, for instance, about what the millennials have projected to the younger generation, I agree. I think there's a lot of hard work that is required from the older generation, basically in modeling, because when you don't model, I mean, somebody said that children are about monkey see, monkey do business. So if they see you doing this, and then so they are saying there's no happiness, but you're telling them to join, and they're wondering, why are we joining? There's no happiness in it. But I think we can change the conversation and say that we can be very intentional. So we are saying you've got to be intentional. And we are saying that it is okay to have a conversation where you even sit on a table and agree. Are we going to be committed, both of us? And I hear somebody ask if he's going to get a beautiful lady, why can't I get a married man? And you know what? Man is relative, because I could be worth 1 million, but according to you, I don't have anything. Somebody could be worth 10 million, and that person has a lot of money according to you. And so, and I believe money comes, money goes. You might come into, into contact with somebody who's probably having a lot of money, having a lot of resources today, but tomorrow they do not have it. And I think what matters a lot is how focused, how principled is that person. Because there are also resources that people are having. We have wash young men in this city who are making lots of money, but they are not, it's not clean money. And if you actually challenge them, they cannot show you where they're making those monies from. And they're living in high estate places, they're driving the big machines, but is that the life that you want to have? And we are seeing FBI landing into the nation, and such people are getting arrested. So we are saying, and we are not saying money is bad, but if you can be able to work hard and be able to acquire resources and become better, and God can be able to nurture you towards that.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. So Dr. Esther, one core thing is, do you feel that we don't have a proper understanding entirely of what, because the audience, they're very intellectual. So most of, like that young man, he understands the Bible, he knows about Solomon and, Abraham, and all that, right? So they'll read you facts. But there's a different aspect to when you know things and you can state them to understanding. So what do you think we're not understanding in this whole equation? Is it that we don't want to understand or we don't want to see?
Okay, well, I think before I answer the question, I'll start by agreeing with Beryl. To your point is that marriage benefits men more than women. Research has actually shown that men have better health and longevity when married as opposed to women.
So did you flip your hair? You've not flipped your hair, which was telling you to flip it.
This is Afro hair. It may not sway as much. But that said, we are talking about from tradition to choice. Therefore, I believe for a woman to get married, they really choose. I mean, for everyone, you choose to get married or not to get married. I chose to get married. You talked about resources. When I was getting married to my husband, I think he had nothing to his name apart from what God gave him. So he didn't have the money. Yes, we have grown the money together and it is still growing. But this is where we come to the understanding of what marriage is. Of course, besides...
Before you continue, why did you choose Dr. Keith to be, your husband? What made him, the most valuable person from, I'm sure other men were talking to you. So what made him different?
Okay, background story. Keith was my classmate back in medical school. So we've come a long way. We've known each other since the year 2000. And we dated and got married on the 31st of December, the year 2005. Why did I say yes to him? Yes, there were many guys talking to me. There were many guys interested. But what did I see in him? Before I saw him, I heard him. He has his story as to how he saw me the first time. But one, I saw a man of character, but he is a believer. I am a Christian. He's a Christian as well. To me, faith is very important. And I am cognizant of the fact that we come from different religious backgrounds, but I am a Christian and I wanted to get married to a Christian because then we have a foundation that brings us together. The other thing is that I wanted someone that I can be engaging with intellectually. There's also intellectual intercourse. And this man is brilliant. He's interesting. Besides being a Christian, he is fun. This guy is humorous and I love to laugh. I enjoy that. And his stories, I realized that I was enjoying spending time with him. Every time we were together, before he even proposed to me, I realized that the discourse was just exciting. And I was like, I need more of this. So by the time he was proposing to me, I was like, yeah, baby, let's do this. And in as much as he didn't have money then, I saw the potential in him. I saw the leadership in him. I saw the peanuts he had and how he would have structure around how to spend those resources. Yeah. And he took me out on that small budget, but he treated me right. So I saw a man of character. I saw a man that I could engage with intellectually. I saw a man who was fun to be with. It was easy to spend time with him. And I saw a man with a vision. Because, when he proposed to me, I said yes. It was not proposal to just date and check out things. For us, it was clear it was towards marriage. Of course, we had a long journey by the time we got to that point. But it's that I saw vision in him. I saw what he wanted to have in life. And I was like, I want to be part of this dream. And it's something I felt I can come alongside and support. And he had a growth mindset. That is personal development. And just, the thoughts, the dreaming into a future, he brought me along in his dreams and we shared in common. And, we not only fell in love, we are still in love. It's by choice. With time, when you get married, then you realize you remain in love by intention. It's the things we do day to day that keep us in love. I see these guys somewhere and they just get excited. I am still in love with this man.
Amazing, Dr. Keith. You must be doing something right. Right. So, Dr. Keith, now that she's mentioned all that, what was the factor for you? And the understanding. Like I said, our audience is brilliant, all these young people. So they have a lot of aspects that they know and they understand, but we need to give it perspective. So tell us.
Sure. For me, I must say it was her smile. The very first thing that hit me was that smile. As you guys can see, when she smiles, the world stops moving. And so when I first saw her, I was a first-year medical student at that time. I was 19 years old when I first saw her, and I proposed to her when I was 20. So between 19 and 20, I got to know her. I joined every organization that I found out she was in. She was in the drama club, so I also joined. Anywhere she was, I joined just to get to know her. Mwanaume ni kujipanga. And so we've done that journey together, as we said, with a baseline of commitment. Let me just quickly mention something about what my brother in red said. It's important to realize in the Bible, there are things that are described and they're not prescribed. And so the Bible does not hide things. It's very upfront. The patriarchs did some things wrong, and the Bible does not hide. In fact, if you're to read the Bible in the Old Testament, it's extremely scandalous. And so Jesus in the New Testament comes and says, in black and white, he says, it was not so from the beginning. In the beginning, he then says, Jesus himself said, a man shall leave his father and his mother. So just to answer that when you see the patriarchs, that does not mean that describes something we should do. It's not prescriptive, it is descriptive. And then the last thing I would say about just the aspect of marriage, money, and all that, I think if you are to pull back the sands of time, as we've done by looking at so many of my patients, the work that I do, I handle patients many times in their last moments in the world. So I've held the hands of so many people as they breathe their last. And it gives you a lot of perspective when you listen to people in their dying bed. And I can tell you, there is not one person who's ever regretted to me about the money they didn't make, about the plots they didn't buy, about the car they didn't, not even one. Everybody regrets about one thing and one thing only: relationships. Everyone on their dying bed, they think they'll say, I wish I spent more time with my children. I wish I was there for my wife. And so when you think about it from a practical social science perspective, happiness ultimately is about relationships. One study that I leave you guys with, there is a famous study, it's called the Harvard Happiness Study. It's been going on for more than 85 years. And when they boil down the conclusions from this study, it all boils down to one thing: happiness is equals to relationships. And so if you're thinking about your life and how to be happy, it means the quality of the relationships have got to be solid. And that is something worth working towards.
All right, thank you so much for that. So Dr. Catherine, Dr. Jones, so your perspective, and then you can pass the mic to her, and then we'll go back to the audience. I'll come back to you, Nate and Beryl. This young lady in white, I saw you smiling and, with his sentiments. I want to know, is there someone in uni looking at you like, following around drama club? We want to know, or we can get your perspective before we go to, she has a mic, it's okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I can say why I was smiling is because I think at the time, many of us are a bit cynical. And it's not because we want to be or we want to be miserable, since we had happiness comes from relationships. I think it would be more of like dealing with what's there, like in a defensive way. I want to rely on relationships I know I can rely on, not shoot in the dark and hope I aim on someone good. Why I was smiling is because I just thought of the relationships I have already. And that's not just being romantic relationship. I thought of my family and my friends and how much quality they bring into my life. So I think he has a point. Whether that, okay, I think the people who get that in romantic relationships are very lucky. But to the cynics and the realists, I see their point of view in that not everyone gets to have that. And I think that's something we should address. How easy or how hard is it to get that romantic relationship in drama club or in first year medical school?
Yeah. All right, fair. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Catherine, you can include that answer in your perspective, and then you'll pass the mic to Dr. Jim.
All right. I think listening to the different views that everyone has shared, what comes to mind is that societal and cultural norms really shape our views, whether towards relationship or marriage. And perhaps that's why we're having even this conversation, to see whether we can drive the narrative a different way. And having said that, one of the things that I think really affects the younger generation, at least in my view, is the overt emphasis on, some imperfections, whether it's with people or perhaps somebody not ticking all the right boxes before they become it, or become the ideal man. And I love the examples that the Dindis, have shared with us in terms of when she met him, he didn't have anything to his name, but they still chose to look at certain things that sort of made sense to them as to what marriage is, and they chose to come together. Another thing that I'm hearing from the room is, and we need to agree, is marriage is not for everyone. And I think it's okay to agree that it isn't for everyone. Not everyone chooses or would want, a life partner the rest of their life. And that's okay. And I think seeing that from everyone's view, it's a good place to start. So the people who are more pro-marriage understand the fundamental principles that, work in a marriage, happiness. We've been told, studies have shown that. And so that even as you get into that institution, you're ready to invest to build that happiness, to build that friendship. I personally think that the highest form of friendship or love in a relationship is friendship. Building that friendship with the other partner really tends to form that love or cement between the two people. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
What comes to my mind, it's more of questions rather than answers, really. When I hear people talk, the elder said, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at millennials and the fact that we are really pro-marriage, a lot of us are married compared to those who are not. And when you look at the Gen Zs, and maybe, I'm not so sure, most of them are not for marriage. We have cynics, as she said, and realists. And we are the ones who have brought them up. Have we failed them? Are we failing to role model? What are we teaching them? What are they seeing when they look at us? Are we thinking of ourselves more highly than what is actually true? Are we being pretentious? Are we overestimating our relationships? Because they're seeing it, and their opinions and their reality is based on what they have seen from us. So what have we showed them, really?
All right.
I think that's my question. I don't have an answer.
All right, quite poignant. So with our Gen Zs, I know Nate, you're burning to say something. So let him finish that burning point, and then Beryl, and then the gentleman in a green jersey, he had something burning to say.
Okay, wow. I have a lot to say, forgive me. I realized I've been a bit conservative, a bit quiet, and I was trying to gauge the level of the group. But anyway, now.
You want to feel free?
Yeah, now I'm free. So I'd start it like this, that one's theological definition doesn't justify a civil law. We have to acknowledge that marriage is defined under the Constitution. It is a social institution justified by the law. It is not theological. You don't get to come and say, in the Bible, it happens this way, therefore it should happen this way. That is not a general rule. If you want it like that, you have to go to a biblical state. That exists. But as far as I know, that is not Kenya. Not every law in the Constitution is made for Christians. And therefore, you can't say that how marriage is in the Bible is how it should happen in real life society. So my second thing, Dr. Catherine, my course leaders, talked about the perfect person. Aki, please don't hate me. You said we keep on looking for this perfect individual. But I'll tell you this, I'd rather have us looking for a perfect than settle on their imperfects. I'd rather you have a goal, a standard. Let that be your perfect. I genuinely rather have. For your safety, I'd rather have that than have you compromising on certain things. That shouldn't be compromised. So you ask yourself, for your daughter or your child, would you let them have a standard that's perfect for them than go into it willing to compromise because you told them the perfect person doesn't exist? Okay, I'll go to my third thing. Mr. Denley talked about framing it yourself, that compatibility doesn't really exist, and you have to frame this person in your mind. So first, I'd start by defining compatibility as two things that can occur. Not that they're similar, not that they're different, but they can occur together, okay? So your dynamic, you occur together. I'd say you're compatible. Within, if you can work together, occur together, function together, that is the definition of compatibility. So I'd say compatibility, don't get stuck in the definition of it. It's a simple English word that says things can occur together. If you and your partner can work and function together, you are compatible. I attended.
Okay.
Oh.
No, go ahead. Yes, just finish your point.
You talked about framing it yourself, right? You frame the good, deal with the bad. And allow me to use your example as a dynamic. Yeah? You work perfect. I love it. It's so romantic. It's really cutesy. You work together. You work well, right? So he comes tonight. You're having an argument. He's mad, right? He's mad at you. You've seen a reaction you've never seen before, right? You decide, no, let me frame it. No, I know, Mr. Green. No, let me frame. No, we are framing the good. We're framing the good. We're dealing with the bad. You're framed. Hi. Another day, anakuja, akavunja glass. Hey, no, I know, Mr. Dindi. Let me frame the good. I want you to be really careful with how we put certain wordings. When you tell a certain person who is single and you tell them, when you meet your partner, I want you to frame this person. I want you to put good and bad aside and put a weighing scale. Ona chenye unaweza pambana nayo. No, I want you to look at this person. I'm not for a frame. Vile mtu amekuja, muangalie hivyo. Wacha frame or he's kind sometimes, he's like this sometimes. No, I can deal because no perfect person exists. It can become quite harming. That's all I'm saying. My second last thing.
You are so much on your chest.
The finances thing. I feel like I maybe wasn't clear. You know what's so funny about these people will be like, oh, the girl wants a millionaire, the girl wants a billionaire. You're the same person who will be mad that she wants a millionaire, but you still want her to cook for you dinner. So this is the thing. When you want certain things on the table, the other party is allowed to want certain things on the table. So I beg, if you are going to that table and you want certain things, allow the other party to want certain things. To the guy, lastly, you said that we have a colonized mindset. Now, I don't know what colonized means for your definition, but for me, my definition, and also the one for the dictionary, historically speaking, if I'm not wrong, Christianity was a colonistic thing, right? So I'd argue that instead of telling me that Gen Z's mindset right now is a colonized mindset, where you base your principles is also colonized. So let's not say everything the white people brought is bad. It's a colonized mindset equal to bad. Those things are not equitable. We have medicine equipment that was brought by the whites. Do we say that's a colonized mindset because we use them? No. We as Africans get to decide what is good or bad, depending on where we came from. So historically speaking, your viewpoint also colonized. Okay.
All right. Okay.
And I'd like to say this then at the last thing, because I had so much as I'm realizing. They said that they worked, yet the guy wasn't financially there. Yeah, like he didn't have everything. Like he wasn't the millionaire, he wasn't the billionaire. And again, I love that for you guys. But the exception is not the rule. It has never been the rule. Okay? You, like I've said, marriage is a choice. At least hapo nimesikia mtu akisema. Now, since that you've said it's a choice, you don't get to decide what I choose and what you choose. It's not a linear thing. You chose the character and the sex life and the whatnot. I get to decide I want him to be here economically. I want his mindset to be like this. Because at the end of the day, your choice is your choice and mine is mine. Okay?
All right.
So, ya mwisho, my lord.
Nate, ulisema hiyo ni ya mwisho, Nate.
Okay, finish it off.
Tukisummarize.
I am marriage. If it works, and I love it. But within being pro-marriage, I am okay if someone doesn't want it.
All right.
It's justified.
Fair. Okay, and the audience sounded like a choir. There you go. All right, so very quickly, we'll get your perspective. And I want to, of course, acknowledge one of the panelists. She came in a bit late, and I'm sure most of you do know her. She's called Quinn Gadhani. Quinn, thank you so much for coming in this evening. And of course, the mic will get to you just shortly. As you can see, the conversation is quite wow. Right, so Beryl, your perspective.
First things first, Nate. I see you. I see you. I also wanted to point on what the guy said. I think we are woke. We are a woke generation, and we have decolonized a lot of things. So, on his point, we've colonized it. No. To the no, we've actually decolonized it. As Nate said, if someone wants me to go home, cook dinner for them, bear children, there's a lot that society expects from women. And even just also maybe to bring up this point, why would I want to get married when I know it does not benefit me? So is it just because society says, get married, get that title, Mrs. I don't know who, and then you'll get a certain title in society? Why can't society allow girls to just grow up and be girls? Why can't society let girls wear white dresses and not say, oh, you'll wear a white dress and look also beautiful at your wedding? Oh, if you can't cook, which man will marry you? Oh, if you can't cook chapati, my mom always used to tell me, you can't cook chapati, no man will marry you. And in my head, I'm just like, oh, it's okay. If you can't wash dishes, what man will marry you? If you can't wash, why is it always centered on marriage? Is that the biggest event? If I'd have a child, I'd want my child to prepare for. Honestly, that's sad. That's sad that we are raising girls. And notice, not boys, we are raising girls and letting them think that the biggest event of their lives is to walk down an aisle in a white dress. Why not walk down an Emirates aisle with my suitcase flying to another country that I have never been before? Why is it that the marriage aisle has to be the aisle I have to walk on? I think it's about time we continue decolonizing these spaces, because at the end of the day, there is so much more than that aspect of marriage. To be honest, there's so much more to life than letting girls think, oh, I need to be groomed to be the perfect wife. It's a really, really sad place that especially we as Africans are in right now. And I wish you could even do like a social experiment and just pick up a random girl from the streets and ask them, and you'd hear their response. So us speaking about it makes it look like we don't want marriage. Yes and no. But then at the end of the day, think about yourself as a mom. You have a little girl. What do you want for them?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I hear you. Queen Gadoni, could you please get a mic to her? She was, like I mentioned, one of the panelists. So yes, let's hear your perspective.
Good evening. I'm really sorry I'm late. 9 to 5 suddenly. But I've been married before. Would I ever go back to marriage? No, I wouldn't. My parents have been married for over 45 years, happily married. And I say that in jest because I don't know about the bad times. I really can't tell if they've had bad times. But I know they started out with nothing, and they were good friends. And if I can remember, one of the things from my childhood is that my parents laughed a lot. There was so much banter in our house. There was so much laughter in our house. And it has stayed that way. So I grew up knowing that marriage works. Marriage is a beautiful thing. And then I got married and it wasn't. And after I left, I realized I had so much to work on as a person if I'm ever going to be able to even be in a relationship, in a partnership, in whatever form of relationship, and especially romantic. So am I for marriage? Yes, I am. If you can, 100%. And you'll never know what marriage feels like until you're actually inside of it. But then there's a very big gap when it comes to marriage and what we're calling colonization or decolonizing of our minds and what we're exposed to over time, because to want to be happily married is to know that you're going to live with a person who is completely different from you, a person who believes in different things, subscribes sometimes to things that you might not be aware of. And the unfortunate part is that when you're dating, a lot of times when you're dating and then you get married, the person you were dating and the person you get married to are completely different. So you're lucky if the person you're dating is still the person you're gonna meet in the marriage. But I think there's the big gap of women getting educated, getting their money up, but still having to submit is completely out of place, because what initially marriage was supposed to provide to protect. The men were supposed to protect, and the women were supposed to love and safeguard the home. But now, the providence that a man gives now, a woman can get it for herself. So then that part of the conversation becomes null and void because women don't need to stick in marriages because they're making their own money. Women are educated now and they can travel. They have all of these freedoms. We have all of these freedoms. And we want to be with men who actually look at these freedoms and not think of them as being a big head, but being a woman who's ahead of time and holding her down and accepting that that's who she is. But a lot of times then it becomes a competition so that if you earn more than your husband, then it starts to look like you're looking down upon him. Well, that's not the truth. So I think there's a lot of inner work to do. If you're going to agree and say that I want to be in a marriage, you have to know that walking into a marriage is walking into another person's life. And one of the things that's also going to happen in your marriage is that you're going to grow and the other person is going to grow. What happens when the goals shift for the other person? Are they willing to sit and walk with you as you change, or what does it become? Because when you look at even the millennials who are getting divorced now, a lot of times it's communication breakdown, it's financial well-being falling apart. So it's barely sometimes cheating. A lot of times it's how you change and your partner cannot accommodate it.
All right.
Yeah.
I hear you. Thank you so much for that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we want to get your views from the audience, and that gentleman in green had, something to say, so we'll pass the mic to him.
Good evening. So I have a whole list. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to go through it anyway. So when we are starting the conversation, there was something that was talked about companionship, that marriage brings in. So I'll link the companionship part with a question that was posed by, I want to call him man, this gentleman over here, about why right now our generation is engaging in marriages of the same sex and all. So my question it was her who said about companionship. And then she stated that marriage brings companionship, and that is one thing that's brought them together and all. So my question, like whatever I'm trying to put out is that companionship doesn't only have to come when people meet and get together and have a romantic relationship in that kind of way, that it's a man and a woman. Like friendships can also cancel out the companionship part, because there are some people who live together for life, they're just friends, and then they are the companionship aspect of being together and supporting each other emotionally, socially, and everything. They don't have to be of different sex to have the companionship part, because you can still develop the emotional aspects, the social aspects, and all.
So you're highlighting purely a friendship. This is
Yeah,
not
a
romantic.
friendship can cancel out the companionship part. That is my argument. The next thing was about community. It was pointed out by, I don't remember your name, so when I point, you just understand. It was pointed out by him, the church
Mr.
elder. Yeah.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, so he talked about that in the past. Okay, I want to link that to Gadoni's point that her parents' marriage was good, then hers didn't work out like that. And then bring now the aspect of why Gen Zs, most of them, don't want to have the marriage. So this is a difference in generations. So I want to assume that her parents are not millennials. They are maybe Gen X or something. So for those ones, it's more of, as they were growing up, they grew up all about submission. Like you were brought up like that. I don't think by that time there was all this aspect of education and all, empowering the woman. So when they were growing up, they were being brought up as a woman should do one, get children, a woman should do whatever the man says, a woman should. So you see, when the woman is being shaped, the woman is brought up to be a submissive woman. I don't know if the point is getting there. Then now,
So you're getting that?
Then now for the millennials, now the whole aspect of change, empowering the woman and all, education came in. So now the generation that grew up is now the resistance generation. So like, why are you telling me to submit to you because you're providing for me, whereas I can provide whatever you're providing for me, for myself? So like, that is why let me put it this way. I have done like a random research from my friends, most of them who are my age, who I want to assume their parents are millennials. And most of them, approximately all of them, I would say 90% of them, their parents' marriages are not working.
All right. So before you continue,
Yeah.
and I acknowledge your perspectives and aspect, we need to sign up from our TV audience. Remember, we are live on NTV. So you'll allow me to just do that. But our conversation right here in the hall continues. So I want to acknowledge everyone watching us from home. This is Live Conversations coming to you straight from Aga Khan University. And remember, this platform is, an ongoing one. So they have different conversations like this throughout. So remember, go onto the platform and you can have more information on the same. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And for now, we'll hand over to, of course, our anchors in studio for the 7 p.m. news, as we approach there. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, so as I was saying, so now the generation millennial now, it was brought up as a resistance generation. And that is why I come and try to think that is the reason why most millennials' marriages are not working. Because now the woman realizes that whatever I was being told about, you need to stay home, I was actually being limited to doing some things so that the man could control me and all. Now, why do you have to control me? I can just stand up for myself. So that's why you're finding right now most millennials' marriages are not working. Now, for our generation now, I would want to say it or put it as it's a choice generation. I do what I want. Whatever you are telling me, it's your problem. I'll do whatever I think is the correct way to handle things. And I'm not doing it from a point of ignorance or something. For example, for my friend over there, when whatever he talked about, it's not ignorance. I've looked at the facts, I've looked at everything you guys are trying to put forth to me, and I don't think they are making sense to me. For example, he gave an example of the Bible. We are told that the Bible is the holy book of God. You should follow whatever the Bible tells you. Then you are told, do not covet. Then the same Bible tells you that David was a man after God's heart. And then when you look at David had 5 wives. Now you are wondering, like for example, let me just give this example of David and Uriah. David broke approximately 3 commandments. And then in the same Bible, you are told that, you know what? David is.
So when we go into religion, right?
Yeah.
We have to, everything has a deeper context, I believe, and different religions carry different sentiments, right? So amongst us are, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, could be people who have different faith, right? So I think we have to be very intentional with our articulation of whatever faith it is, so we can have an objective conversation. But I acknowledge what you're saying, but I think we really need to have the acknowledgement of that particular aspect.
Yeah. Now for the religion part, I was just now going to my point. Religion now will push you to think of a way of handling marriage, which when you look into it, at some point it doesn't make sense. And that is why, like, you'll find most of the Gen Zs now that they don't want to follow now the whole aspect of religion. That's why I'm talking about it's a choice generation. You have given me whatever you have, and when I weigh it as per what you think is right and whatever you're telling me I should do, it's not adding up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
thank
I
you.
hear you. Thank you so much. Anyone else in the audience who would like to give their perspective? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll come to you. It's okay. You can just give it the mic. He'll begin.
So good evening. So I have too many things in my head, but I'll pick those that.
Yeah, because of time.
Yeah,
Yes.
because of time. So the first one is that what millennials think that they want from marriage is totally different from what we want from marriage. So when you're talking about marriage, I think you're looking at that from the point from which you were brought up to look at it. But for me, when I look at marriage, I'm asking myself, just like any other investor or entrepreneur would do, what's in it for me? So what am I getting out of this? So if I have to
What do you want to get it like from you? What would you want from marriage?
So what I'd want from marriage, when I look at it, there's nothing that it can offer me that I wouldn't get by myself and still be a happy man. So, and the only thing as a person that I'd want from marriage are kids from my own blood. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to settle down with a wife. So if I have to work for my whole life and earn this woman as a prize, so if you want to be treated like a prize, you definitely have to meet certain criteria. Yeah. So if you want to be treated like Cinderella and I have to be Prince Charming, I have to do all these things to conquer, but you also have to be someone. You're not just coming from the bushes and you expect me to work for this and lay down my life for you. So we have to acknowledge that even as men try to fight, maybe the traumas that they've had and try to be better for their women and for their kids. The women also have to play their part into being being deserving of what they demand. You want a guy with a net worth of 50 million? Be someone, you're not just being fed and just staying there and having kids, which is so important. We know that women go through a lot to have kids, but apart from
Lady in
that,
front of you is really burning the lady in pink. So just to wind up, right? Yourself, just to wind up on this conversation,
Yeah.
you're saying that you can have all the benefits of marriage without being married. So you can have the kids.
Correct.
You can just find a lady who you would like and get, a relationship that would give you all those things.
there's having to sign a document.
Okay, all right. The lady in pink, she's even like, yeah, you're burning.
Okay, good evening, everybody. But first, I want to correct you. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm from a strict Muslim family. I don't think you can say we were taught to submit. Do I believe in marriage? I just believe in free will. People can decide what they want. I have a 26-year-old son. People keep telling me, oh, why isn't he settling down? I'm like, let him do what he wants to do. Do I have children outside of before my second relationship? I was there for 10 years. Then I decided to walk down the aisle. After 4 years, I was out. So I feel it's not about whether people should get married or they shouldn't, is what do they want? We shouldn't force our generation. Like for my son, I tell him, live with a girl, get to know her, because like you said correctly, people change after you get married. So I have no issues with that. So we were not, we have free will. There's this thing that Gen Xers were submitted and stuff. I think outside the box. I think we need to change with time. Give them the, the tools and the stuff, speak to them, but allow everybody, every generation to do what they want to do. I'm in a very, controversial relationship, but I really don't care. My person is younger than me by 15 years. We've had 8-year relationship. It's great. We laugh. We are friends. So I just think you need to stop. Must be like this. There's nothing that is written apart from the laws that are written in Kenya. Nothing else is written in stone. That's
okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for your perspective. Okay, then this young lady here. Yes, you'd have a perspective yourself, right?
I think this is one of the most exciting life conversations that I've gone to because everybody is really heavily defending or arguing about the other person's point of view. But if you're very honest with yourself, we are all defending or boxing against the shadows in our head. Yeah. So people who feel very strongly that marriage is bad and people who feel strongly that marriage is good, they're both right. It's not a one fits all. And a lot of things that we have. So culture is about the stories we tell ourselves. So for example, we say marriage should be like this, says who? You know, because in some cultures, women pay the dowry. In some cultures, men stay back and take care of the babies. So the idea that if I have a particular narrative, it should be that way. If most people around you are the same, either you're the dominant voice or you are in a bubble that is self-affirming. Yeah. So actually, everybody's viewpoint is valid. For the young Gen Zs, I think the gusto that you speak with is the gusto we had when we were your age. You know, we're telling our parents we know what we're doing and blah, blah, blah. But every generation brings in a new perspective. I think one of the big things in our generation was cross-cultural marriages, interreligious marriages, cross-national marriages. But all these identities are somehow, in a way, a story. If you say, for example, you're a Kenyan, how do you know you're a Kenyan? It's an identity we've created, and we hold on to it. We have a flag, we have a passport. We've created a whole story about being Kenyan. Relationships mean different things to different people. Even if I was to be so kind, I know Keith as a friend, when you said, oh, you did a lot of work and you followed everything she did, if it was not mutual, it's called stalking. And there's a law against that. You know, that a lot of times when we love someone, we make it seem like this fairy tale, and the reality, it's a game of probability. Yeah, there's loads of other people who did the same thing and it never worked. So I'm not asking you get married. I'm not saying you don't get married. I even don't have an opinion if it's same sex or not. But I do know that a lot of times, and I'm going to be very honest to the men in this group, the reason why you hold on to it very much, it gives you disproportionate benefits. If it didn't, you wouldn't hold on to it. You know, men fought for independence from the country because they didn't like it. When they fight against women speaking up, and I'm not saying that you're not aware. I'm saying a lot of times privilege is people who are privileged don't know they're privileged until somebody comes and says, this is the reason this is not working for me. So every woman, every man here has a right to demand what they consider the thing that will help them self-actualize, whatever that thing is. At the same token, they have the right to change their minds. And I love the example of somebody who said, you know, you're a different person at different points. And so you may opt in or out of some choices you made, or you renegotiate them. I think if Keith and Esther, you are very honest, you have renegotiated your marriage 20 years straight. You're not the same people who got married to each other. You will not be the same person in 5 years' time. And I'm married, but I don't have a death doeth part clause in my marriage, because I think if it's not working, why are we suffering together? Like, I don't understand that. Why are we suffering together? And when I got married, if I really thought about it, I wouldn't have gotten married, because by the time I got to the altar, it was patriarchy on steroids. Because we were in different parts in the world and we were doing these things remotely and organizing. And when I got there, I remember the day before the one, I said, okay, so did you do your list? And he asked me, what list? I mean, the church had sent me a double-sided, cups of what I should or should not do. And he was only told, make sure you've cut your hair. Like, we don't have the same expectations of each other. So when somebody says, I'm not so comfortable about X, I'm not vilifying your choice. I'm saying the framework, for me, I have questions. It doesn't mean, just based on that, it doesn't mean I was going to get divorced, but it means that once we got married, which is just a piece of paper, we then renegotiated marriage on our terms. And really, it's not about marriage, it's about relationship. And so if people here in this group say, I would rather have a can we stay, or somebody else says, I would rather have, we are partnered, but we don't live in the same house, that's okay. And if they change their mind, the only thing is that it has to be honest. Today, I asked somebody, are you married? And he said, not really. I said, does the other person know you're not married? And so it has to be consensual and you have to be on the same page.
All right, thank you so much. Anyone else with a perspective? Okay, Dr. Esther wants to respond and then we'll come to you. All right.
Okay, I think I'm responding to Nate on this one. I think he talked about framing, and there was this assumption that when you frame, you just accommodate anything from your spouse. That is not the case. We believe in healthy marriages, not just any marriage. We don't just advocate for any marriage, but healthy marriage. And that is what we've worked towards for the last 20 years. And what does that mean? Mostly because we are two different people. then conflict will arise. Conflict just simply means you're going to disagree in how you look at things. And so there's a framework as to how we disagree. There must be respect and there has to be boundaries. And boundaries just means you can come in, you can go out, but this is the fence. You don't cross certain things. So there has to be respect. There's no name calling when you're disagreeing. It has to be with calm emotions. So we have to be level-headed. So that is very important. We are not advocating for nonsense. We are advocating for healthy marriages. And that's something you have to keep working on. And why sometimes people go different ways is because they do something simple that is rather passive. They drift apart. When you fall in love and come together, say you're in love, you're getting married, or you're relating, or you're going to move in, what makes you fall out of love? You simply stop doing the things that you are doing at the very beginning. And so if you want to have a flourishing marriage, which I can attest to, it's something that I am living, is because we keep doing those same things we did from the very beginning to maintain the kind of chemistry we had from the beginning. And that means that we keep evolving together. When you want to develop in something, you want to further your studies, you can do that. The other thing is that people keep talking about, it's like marriage is this sacrificial altar you go to and life stops happening. If it's traveling the world, for heaven's sake, you're talking about just traveling. We travel the world. We have been to all the continents in this world. We've traveled, we've had fun. We can have luxury. It does not mean that you then you die to self, you stop doing things that you enjoy. You can still do that. You just need to learn the art of negotiation and collaboration as a couple. But you can still enjoy marriage if you're willing to keep working together just the same way you fell in love. So it's a day-to-day thing. It's something that calls for intention in how you do your living. But marriage is awesome.
All right. So before we come back to the panel, the lady in white, you wanted to give some sentiments. Yes. You can pass her the mic, please. Sorry, 1 minute. Let's give her a moment.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. This is my first time to a live conversation, and I'm really, really blessed to be here. I'm here wearing 2 hats. I'm a parent of Gen Z myself, and I'm also a learner. I've come to learn, I've come to listen, I've come to learn, and I'm really excited about the conversation in the room. I want to pick up from where Gadoni, she spoke about her experiences and how her parents, her parents and their marriage and how that affected her. So I want to start from there. And that's why I'm wearing a mask, because 2020 taught us how to wear masks because of COVID. But you know what? I learned how to wear a mask a long time before 2020. I am single again, which means that I was married. I'm not married anymore, and I am single by choice. And marriage is a beautiful institution for those who have made a choice in their heart to get married. One thing that I prayed when I went through my own journey is that I wouldn't be cynical and bitter and resentful so that I can't come and, appreciate and acknowledge that you've had a beautiful journey. I thank God with you and for you. However, I think this perfecting of wearing masks. How are you? How are you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. We're great. Sisi tuko sawa. Imagine it's not. And if things are not working, vulnerability, authenticity, please. My name is Wairimo, and I am intentionally taking this mask off for the Gen Zs in this room. I'm a childbirth educator, I'm a doula, and I'm also a breastfeeding counselor. As women, we don't talk much about what other women should expect when you're having a baby. We just tell you it's okay. How will I know? This pain is so bad. No, if you feel like you're about to die, then you know the baby's coming. Let's be real. If we're having a hard time, I had a difficult time, but I'm not going to come here and talk about the father of my children. I want to turn that light back to me. I carried baggage from when I was a young girl. Nobody told me that I needed to go through therapy so that I could let go of some of those loads and heavy baggage that I was carrying into my marriage. And so, Gen Z, and I'm speaking to my two beautiful daughters, we love you. We love that you see things differently. We love that you are bold enough to speak where we couldn't speak. We love that you see life like a kaleidoscope in different colors. You see things differently. And so our values may be the same, but we just have different ways of expressing those values. And for me, I'm here to do one thing. On behalf of, I'm not even a Gen X. I think I'm a Gen X. I'm not a millennial, I'm a Gen X. I want to apologize on behalf of the parents who have not spoken when we needed to speak, who have not been authentic about our relationships, who have not apologized for the contribution that we have played and the hurt that we have passed on to you. I apologize on behalf of that generation. And I want to say, may the lack of our boldness to sit at the table and have those hard discussions with you not cloud your judgment, not cloud your choices. Before you can get married, before you can give yourself to somebody else, doesn't matter. Spend some time with yourself. Understand, who am I? Who are you? What makes you tick? What makes you get upset? Spend time and get to know yourself. I'm a believer, and I have come to now understand that I don't need a second person to fill that gap. God has done that for me.
All right.
And I'm not demanding that of anyone else in this room. I'm here as a voice to speak and say, I'm single and happy. I can finally talk about this without crying. You heal first. Take time out to heal first so that if it's in my path, in my journey, that I will be in another relationship, I'm not going to bring the baggage that I had before. Because guess what? I found he who I need to bring this baggage to. And guess what he's helped me do? He's helped me unpack the guilt, the disappointment, the rejection, and I have healed. And today I can say, I am single by choice. And I'm beautiful, by the way. Hey, it's not, it's my Jubilee year, by the way. So
congratulations.
I'm in my 5th floor. And I truly am here to just thank God for this opportunity to have this wholesome discussion with everybody that is here, regardless of the generation. I apologize. And I invite other older parents. Let's not shy away from these discussions. Let's not shy away from being authentic about what has happened or what, it's very easy to point this finger, but how many are pointing back? So when things went south in my situation, I sat down with my daughters and I said, this is the reason why your father and I didn't work.
I hear you.
And it wasn't about their father. It was about what I could have done differently.
Okay, let's acknowledge her for her vulnerability. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being vulnerable with the rest of the audience. Now, we still have a panel that needs to give their perspective. But just to be fair, we have this whole corner of our audience who I'm sure you want to share your perspectives. Is there anyone before I start picking people? Oh, that amazing young lady. Yes, would you please pass her mic?
Hi. Okay. Hi. I'm standing here as pro marriage.
I've seen marriage from my parents' perspective, and I'm also speaking as Gen Z. One thing my dad taught me and my mom is one of the greatest decisions I have to make is my future partner. And one thing my dad keeps on saying is over time, we've forgotten how to just be happy and exist. And also, we talk about how marriage is beautiful. I think marriage is beautiful. I think of marriage as having my best friend by my side every day. And I think that's quite beautiful. So I think marriage is beautiful, but we don't talk about how scary it is. So I think the real conversation here is when to walk away. I feel like one thing we don't teach our daughters and sons or us as Gen Z is yes, marriage is beautiful, but when does choosing each other every day become hard? When does it become unhealthy? So we'll speak about every day marriage is beautiful. I think it is, it's true, but the real conversation is when does it get to be too much? When do you need to walk away? When do you need to choose yourself? And that's a conversation that we really don't have. And that's a conversation that needs to be had, not about submission, not about all that. There's so much more before that. On the aspect of Gen Zs, I feel like over time we've realized there's so much more to life and there's so much more to achieve. Right now, I am single, so when I think about marriage, I think that's the last thing on my mind. And I feel like there's so much more to life before I get there. And I view marriage as beautiful and also as very stressful to the point that the last thing I need is to be seated somewhere stressing about a man when I have so much more to achieve. Genuinely, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's what I think. But I also think it's beautiful, but there's a time and place for everything. And I feel now is the time for me to grow as a person, to be ready to meet my future partner. Also, we think of the perfect person, but we never look within and think, are you perfect yourself? You're there looking for the perfect partner that's this, and that. But there's so much more, there's so much growth for me as an individual before I can even meet that person at that point in time. On the point of financial stability, everyone wants something else. Like everyone has their perfect list of things that they want in an individual. They have their deal breakers. There's someone who will say, if this man cheated on me, I'm staying. There's someone who would say, no, me, I'm not staying. And we've just put it into one cube that it has to be this, and that, and it doesn't have to be that. And I feel like you need to learn yourself as an individual before you can even sit down and see that you don't want this, and that. So yes, as Gen Z, I think we're speaking from our age and millennials are speaking from their age. And all of us have so much growth to do before we can even start talking about it. So I'll think of marriage as submission, yet I've not even gotten into the marriage. Yeah, I think that's my take on it. But I think marriage is a beautiful thing.
All right, thank you so much for that. Anyone else from this side who has a perspective before we move on? Anyone else? I saw you guys clocking stuff here. No? I'll pick you. Could you please give her a mic? I would love to know your perspective and then we come back to the panel.
Oh, hi everyone. Hi. Okay, so I'm speaking as a person who has Gen X parents who didn't have the submission aspect. I think marriage can be a beautiful thing, but I feel like it's unnecessary in my opinion, because I feel like it is unnecessary going through like I'm talking for the financials specifically. You have to join everything. Some people choose to change their names. I love my name. It's very pretty. Bochaberry. How many people have you had like a Bochaberry? But then like if I get married, there's this expectation I have to take his name, or maybe it's disrespectful. My mother took my dad's name. It's a lot of work to change all your documents. Then you fuse everything. And in the case, I don't think there's a lot of prenups in our country. In the case you guys do split, you have to like physically separate yourself in every single way, and going through all that pain, I don't want it. I know like there's the possibility everything will go right, but I would like to focus on the possibility that everything could go wrong, because that's Maslow's law. I should focus on all the wrong things that could possibly happen, and I don't feel comfortable making a decision knowing, oh, I could get into a relationship with someone who's a narcissist. No matter how much you vet, This person could have been very good at pretending, and then all of a sudden you're in the news, a domestic violence case. I'm not really interested in that.
All right, thank you so much for your perspective. All right, let's go back to our panel. So I will not even pick. I know each one of you has, a point. So you, Mr. Kennedy, look like you're burning with a point. So you can just respond to all this. And a core thing here is identity. One of the things that I can hear from my perspective that is core is, do we understand ourselves, our fears and everything? Because when two people are coming together, it's not just that, it's the union, the individuality, identity, and everything, so each generation has what's its core aspects, what they went through in forming the next and the like. So there can never be a competition between one generation and the other, because each is unique to its own, with its own struggles and victories and the like. So I want you to please encapsulate all that in your perspective. And remember, all of you can go because of time. So when you finish, we can go to Beryl, then Nate, then Dr. Esther here, come back down to our panel, Dr. Joan, Dr. Catherine, Dr. Keith, Queen Gathoni, right?
Wow, thank you very much. And it's a heated debate in here. And indeed, as you said, we are living in the information era. And I think in the former days, there was limited information, and that's probably why some decisions were made in a certain way. But today, people have access to information, and they can make more informed choices. Somebody said there, does it mean I have to lay my life? I need to say there's one who laid his life and it was enough. Nobody else need to lay his life again. Jesus laid it all. I know somebody said that again, if, for instance, friendship can replace that place of companionship, ain't it enough? And I think we are saying, first of all, let it be understood that even from us millennials or even the older generations, we are not saying that marriage is mandatory, marriage is a must. Even Apostle Paul, for those of Christian faith, said, if you can be able to pursue celibacy, it's out of your choice. So first of all, we are not forcing anybody that, you need to get married. But for those that cannot then be able to uphold celibacy, then you can get married. And I know that's why, especially in the Western culture, and I think that is moving in a lot, where you'll see somebody that his dog or his kitten, that is the dearest thing to them because they can offer the companionship that our brother is talking about. But then I think we come from an African culture perspective where human relationships are very, very key and very primary. And what we are saying is today we are open to this conversation. And that's why we've been having this conversation. And we are saying that there are some things that we agree, they may not happen like it was happening in the former years. There are certain things that remain constant. For instance, if it is marriage between man and woman. Because, this other ideology that a man can get married to another man, a woman can get married to another woman, there is a constant. And those that may choose otherwise, they may do that on their own volition, but we stand for that if it is marriage, then it ought to be between opposite sexes. And I want to say that I like the conversation of can I be a better person? Can that person be better even before we come together? Because I think in the former years, that wasn't big. And you'd find two people are very blunt and they just start off the journey. And we are agreeing that it is very okay for you to be polished as a young lady, for you to be polished as a young man, work on your studies, work on your income, if you so choose, and then settle down. And those that are happy to settle quickly, it is also okay for them. But we are not supporting, and so that it is very clear, particularly for the Gen Zs, we are not supporting blind love, foolish love, inconsiderate and confused because, we must stay in marriage. No. We are saying that we can be in it and we can have conversation. I have said we've been married together with my wife for the last 15 years. As we've been married, we've had hard conversation. We've corrected each other. We've improved each other and we've become better. I think I would want to put a comma there.
Thank you so much. Beryl?
Yeah, so probably I'll start with, don't get it twisted. Love is a beautiful thing, of course. My mother loves me, my grandma loves me. I feel loved, like I am loved by my friends. Do I need a man to come in and make me feel loved? I think no. Like, personally, if you can look at the stance I am taking is I want to avoid that. It's like fictional. It's like storytelling. It's like a novel. It's like, I feel like we, especially mostly girls, it's girls that are fed like these romantic fairy tales by like society or like patriarchy. So that like when they grow up, they want to, fall in love and get married. Again, it's a male-dominated society. What I want to say is, in my opinion, I think marriage is a form of modern-day slavery. It's literally, women give free labor. They will bear children for free. I feel like even people should start charging to give back to kids who bear another man's. Actually, we bear kids and they get the man's name. Don't you guys think that's weird? Like, my name is Beryl Njoki Mungai, but it's my mom who gave birth to me. Anyway, maybe that's a conversation for another day. But like, if we're being honest, I think there's so much we can choose to want to get from life. Maybe will I get married one day? Yeah, but it's it's non-existent on my list. And what I also want to say is about community. I think
because of time barrier, just to notify you, we are literally running almost out of time. So just
let me summarize. Yeah. And then about community, I think you can form community regardless of like romantic relationships. Even platonic relationships can form community. And there's a certain study that showed that when men are on their deathbeds, they're the loneliest compared to women. Women build community. Women have friends from like charmers, from literally everywhere. So I think at the end of the day, again, I'll repeat, a marriage literally benefits a man because when you bring a woman, you bring them with their community. Even look at when a homestead, when a matriarch dies, when a woman dies, a grandma, that homestead is zero, it's empty, it's plain. It goes to show you that a woman has so much value, but does society really give women accolades for the value that they bring to society and to family and to all that? Yeah.
Right, thank you. Very briefly, Nate?
Very, very.
Yes.
Okay, I'll conclude with a series of statements it has explained. First statement, delaying to marry is not rejecting marriage. Take your time. Second statement, a marriage is not the supreme relationship. You can find fulfillment, compassion, and all those things in all other forms of relationships. Third statement, what she said, apologizing for our parents' part, and I heard someone say that parents did us dirty in a way. And don't vilify them for it. Recognize they weren't in the same situation as us. And it is now our responsibility to take things differently. Fourth statement, women compromised for a long time. Whether you want to accept it or not, Akini Misitri, but you're in fact. So, women compromised for so long. Please be kind and allow their expectations to change. Simple. Last two statements, I'm sorry, just last two statements.
Back to back, yes.
Marriage can be beautiful. Keyword, can. Sawa? And I like what she said about culture being a form of stories. You decide your story. You decide. Sawa? And the last thing, because I'm hearing a lot about same-sex marriage and whatnot, we can debate morals beside, and I'll tell you what I think about gay marriage. But I'd implore you, with whatever opinion you have on any person, be kind. I don't think that's too much to ask, but let's just be kind to each other in spite of our wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Dr. Esther, briefly also.
Sorry, I'd already switched off my mic. It's from tradition to choice. It's from tradition to choice. You can choose to get married, you can choose to remain single, and that's okay. But if you choose to get married, then there are rules kind of that govern marriage. But I would say, because you can choose to remain single or get married, that it is you as an individual that comes into marriage or chooses to stay single. So it is very important that you are whole as a person. Even when you're getting married, you need to bring the whole of you, the healthy you, into the marriage. So what does that mean? That you need to heal. Because many of us are battling demons and things that and this just to say like ugly is either you have bitterness from your experiences growing up, whether you have adverse childhood experiences, whether you've gotten abused, whether you've observed, toxic patriarchy, or whatever it is that you've experienced that is wounding you, that is making you bitter, that is making you have so much baggage. You need to heal as a person. Whether you're getting married or not, you need to be healthy, because it is the healthy you're going to carry to the very end until you go to the grave. That is very important. And
Okay.
if you choose to get married, it can be exciting, but it's a collaboration. You need to have agreements. And if it is toxic, like someone brought up, if it is unhealthy, if your life is at risk, if someone is cheating on you, if someone is physically violent, or whatever other risk you're being put at, you need to step out. So it's very important that you preserve yourself, because you need to be whole. But
right.
most importantly, for those who believe in creation, you were created a masterpiece, and you need to remember that.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Esther, Dr. Catherine, and then we'll go on to Dr. Keith and Dr. Joan and Queen Gathoni. Please hand her a mic, please. Sorry.
All right, I think the conversation this evening has been quite insightful and thought-provoking. My last comment is really, we need to all sort of go back to the drawing board and see what is driving our script or our narrative about marriage. And perhaps for me, the caution is against looking at perhaps our parents' narrative, or even mine. Assume I'm married today and you're looking at me as your role model, and you're defining your own relationship or the need for marriage based on me. What happens if tomorrow I'm not married? So we need to be quite cautious about these changing narratives and ask ourselves, what is the script we are reading from that defines what we choose or not choose about marriage? Having said that, we also need to realize or come to the point where we ask ourselves, what's our why? Why am I getting married? Do I have to get married? And I think that will go a long way in really, deciding or helping you decide whether you'll get married. Ultimately, I think what we have seen here, allow me to say between the DDs, needs to be normalized. Very early in the conversation, I had somebody say this is more of the exception than the norm. But what if it isn't? What if there are actually relationships out there that are working, and we need to have more conversations around that? That's my take home. Thank you.
All right. You can pass it to him, and then Dr. Joanne.
Thank you. I think mine is just to wish all of you guys exciting, amazing marriages where there is a lot of sex. That's what I wish you guys. And let the conversations continue. I think conversations across generations is a very good thing. It's good to be open, to be raw. That is the only way we can be able to move forward as a society. So for me, I wish all of you guys happiness.
All right. He wishes you a lot of, coitus. All right, Dr. Joanne.
I think for me, I would like to say that as society, culture, traditions, everything changes, biology doesn't change, right? I have to be a gynecologist here and say something. So, and this is not for everyone, so don't stone me. But for those of us who want children, women have a limited number of years when they're reproductive or they're productive. Unfortunately, we are born with like a specific number of eggs in a basket that over time runs out. And as you think about your choices, as you think about your decisions, if you're one of those people who would want to have children, think about this as well. It's a reality. And I know there are many people who decide they don't want kids, and that's okay. We even have very young girls at 23, 22 who want to remove their uterus or tie their tubes, and they're certain they don't want children. And it's not from trauma, it's just because of choice, and that's okay. But if you want children, know that over time, that may be difficult. And there are many options these days, that's true. Science has progressed, many things are happening, we have IVF, but even for those, success rate goes low as time goes. So think about that even as you make your choices.
All right, thank you so much. Let's hand the mic to Queen Gathoni. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Remy. Thank you for having me. But I'd like to say, and especially to the girls in their 20s, I was married at 21 willingly. Worst mistake of my life, but best lessons of my life too. But the one take home from that whole saga was that loving yourself is the ultimate love. You will not be able to attract any type of relationship, partnership, even in business, even in friendship, if you do not love yourself and commit to yourself. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And I know, yes, clap for her. Yes. 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 Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and Aga Khan University for providing the platform for us to have this live conversations. I want to appreciate each and every one of you for your sentiments, your perspectives. Remember, no one is right or wrong. You know, everyone carries their perspectives from where they're at. So we appreciate that. Professor Ngugi, thank you so much, for introducing this particular conversation. Dr. Washira, thank you so much for also facilitating this, and the committee, right? Miss Sweeney, thank you so much. Also, she's right here. She's also part of the committee, and everyone else who has made this possible, and NTV for the live coverage. So we will sign off from here, our able panel. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, and come to more live conversations and feel free. Yeah, mfungue roho. Thank you, Tena. Santi.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you. A big clap to Remy. This was the first time she's moderating this, jumped on the deep end. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Yet another exciting live conversations. I can tell you, when we sit down to come up with these things, no one knows how this story is going to go. There's no script. We bring all of you to share your opinions and share the conversations with us. So we really appreciate you coming to the live conversations. We want to hear your voices, the voices of our panelists and everyone involved. A quick thank you to the team that puts this together. Steve back there, Mary, Winnie, Corinne back there coming in the bags, and of course to the Aga Khan University for allowing us to get creative with our conversations. Quick housekeeping. There's food downstairs, so grab something before you go. Those who have parking needs to be validated. Mary will sort that out for you. And the next live conversation should be in the next quarter. I'm not sure exactly what the date, and to be honest, we don't even know the topic. Normally, we'll make it up as we go along. And so looking forward to hosting all of you at the next live conversations. I think we have social media channels now, and a few places you can follow the conversation. And if you're leaving this place confused as to, okay, should I get married or should I not get married? That's what live conversations are about. We're not here to give you answers. We're here to just create the conversation. And please continue the conversation on our social media channels and in your communities, in your household, and have fun. All right. And we would like to appreciate our panelists. So I'll ask Prof. Ngugi, yes, to quickly come and help us gift our panelists. Thank you. Yes. All right.